The birds are still there, but we've got the permit for the birds. The permit was received in it was received in January 19th. They received a permit to start going again. Right now, they're talking Bermite, Whittaker-Bermite project. Hopefully, the soils. The new plan is that will be completed by June of this year. But like I've told everybody in the past, for the past 10 years, it's been 3 to 5 years, so we'll see. What Whittaker did announce was that the VOCs of all the organic compounds that they're pulling out of the soils, their projects are up to 80% complete. The one in the train station, there's a big unit in the train station at Santa Clarita that's about 95% done. It should be done by June. Like I say, the soil cleanup should be done by the end of June. Right now, they're screening the what they call hula bowls, the landfills. They're pulling all the stuff out of there, and they're distributing, finding out what it is, taking the debris, and they're carting the debris off to other landfills and refilling the canyons that they used. The hula bowls were 4 different ravines that they used when they had a surplus of like Loctite, things like that. If they had a surplus, they just threw it into the canyons and filled it over with dirt. So that's what they're cleaning up now. They're downsizing the soil cleanups because they're almost complete with that. The water, I asked them questions about, being all the rain we had, was the water, they have water retention basins up on the property. I was asking if they were large enough to hold all the runoff, and they said, well, they used most of the water on the property for the soil mitigation and also the dust control, but with the rains, the dust control has been a little lax. But any water that does run off the property that they don't catch in a retention basin and all that, they do test, and they test that. I believe it's monthly. They test what's coming off of the property that's running down into like Circle J or towards Placerita. I also asked them about the groundwater levels because 2 years ago, well, during the drought, they announced that groundwater levels, before the drought, the groundwater averaged 10 feet below surface level. And with the drought, it dropped to 80 feet below the surface. And they were trying to use the groundwater to do some mitigation to stop the flow of the contaminated groundwater onto like the Saugus Speedway property and stuff. And they were going to use this, what they call a permeable reactive zone, where they drill wells and they put all this amendment down there. Creates a curtain, and so any kind of groundwater flow goes through this curtain, and it pulls all the perchlorate out with this amendments. So they've drilled 130 wells to do this, but the groundwater is starting to come up. 2 years ago, when we had a significant rain event, during the winter, the groundwater went from 80 feet. It came back up to 65 feet below the surface level. Last year, we had minimal rain, so I asked them again this year. I said, "Well, what's the level now with the significant rain we've had this year?" And they thought it was back up to about 80 or 65 feet. They said possibly 55. They're doing some studies. I should be able to find out the total answer next month. But they are doing this permeable reactive zones over between the train station and the speedway. They're working on, they're cleaning up the groundwater. And, we have our treatment plant. We're here on Soledad Canyon Road now. Well, the treatment plant has been treating their 4 to 5 acres. 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 4 I've got it down here. Oh, the treatment plant's been treating, it can treat up to 500 gallons a minute. But all this water is being discharged into the river. But they say the water that is treated there, it's treated for perchlorates and VOCs. And the water that's coming out actually is drinking quality, but it's not certified to drink, so that's why they discharge it. They have the permits to discharge it into the river. So it goes into the river and it's percolating down to recharge the aquifers.
Where's the discharge point? You know?
Well, it's going out to culverts. You know where the treatment plant is? There's a culvert that goes underneath Soledad just to the east of the treatment plant. It goes out. There's a culvert that they covered over for Via Metro, and it runs through that culvert that they covered, and it runs back west, and then it runs out into the river. Now, the treatment plant's working well, but the water agencies are having problems with they've had perchlorate, which they've been treating for 10 years now, Saugus 1 and 2. There's two other wells. There's a well by City Hall, and there's a well by the bus transfer station on Valencia and McBean. Those two wells have been shut down. 201 by City Hall has been shut down. About 10 years ago, they shut it down. Well, now it's pumping water. They've got a treatment, a wellhead treatment facility right there. They're treating it for perchlorate, but they still haven't had it certified yet that they can put that back into the water supply. So they're pumping this water, but they're just dumping that into the river also. The water companies. Now the Saugus 1 and 2 were only being treated for perchlorate and they got Whittaker to pay for that, for the treatment. Well, these VOCs are starting to show up in the water. And there's been two sources that they've identified that have the VOCs. One is the Whittaker-Bermite property, and the other one is the Saugus industrial property. Well, these VOCs are showing up, and they're starting to show up at approximately 90% of the tests. It's not the maximum load that they have to report, but the VOCs are showing up, and they need to start treating these because VOCs are a carcinogen and they do cause cancer. What they've been doing with these, they're supposed to not see any 100% of the time. Well, they're only not seeing them 90% of the time now. So anyway, they're in litigation with Whittaker to try to get Whittaker to pay for the treatment. But the water companies are going ahead to start treatment and build a treatment plant to treat the VOCs before they even get the money from Whittaker. They're working on that now. So they're in court fighting over that treatment. Of course, the water treatment out here will continue for at least 30 years. It's been probably almost 20 years since they discovered the perchlorate in the Saugus 1 and 2, the over there by Magic Mountain Parkway and Bouquet Canyon, Railroad Avenue, whatever you want to call it, by Saugus Cafe. When they discovered that, they said it was a 20 or a 40-year creep, that it came off of the Whittaker property. It took 40 years to get to those wells. Well, now it's been 15 years. The wells have been going, but the capacity, the production capacity is way low. So what they're doing, they're producing right now. They're producing 4,200 gallons a minute out of these wells, but but what they did is they lost almost 7,000 acre feet. They're not producing 7,000 acre feet less water than they originally did. But the water companies have got, they're going to put 2 new wells over by Magic Mountain, which is hopefully past the plume and past the contamination, and they hope it will not draw the contamination up there. That the barrier wells on the property, and what they have pumping now will contain the perchlorate. So, like I say, the water company is going to put in 2 new wells on the other side of the freeway in Magic Mountain. Right now, with the VOC showing up and all this, they've been, before treatment, all they do is they've been diluting the drinking water. So they take the treated perchlorate drinking water and combine it with state water at a ratio of 6:1, and then it's put into the drinking supply. I had a water guy tell me years ago that the solution to pollution is dilution, and that's exactly what they've been doing, is diluting at 6:1. But the VOCs have been showing up, and they have to start treating those. So they're working on that now, and like I say, it's in litigation, and hopefully they'll get a judgment that Whittaker will have to pay for that along with the other treatment, and it'll be set up so that the treatments will be it will continue until infinity, probably. It's at least 30 years. One thing I need to say, once they get the soil cleaned up, they have to present a soil management plan to the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and the Department of Toxic Substance Control has to certify the whole cleanup to make sure everything's according to their standards. Then they also have to submit the soil management plan to the city, and the city has to verify it also. Once that is all done, then they can open their property up to being sold, or developers can buy it and do what they want to do with it. There was about 120 acres that were actually contaminated out of the 996. Developers have stated there's approximately 500 acres up there that's actually developable. So anyway, that's what's going on with Bermite. There might be a light at the end of the tunnel. In the back of my mind, it's always 3 to 5 years. That's it. Sure. Our next speaker is.
We got a question.
Oh, we have a question.
Yes. How many gnat catchers are there?
2.
2. Do you suppose they'd ever consider relocating them down to the west end of LAX, where other little gnat catchers live, along with the El Segundo Blue?
These are Santa Clarita gnat catchers.
I know, but they have tons of food down there.
I know. Well, they're foraging now. They keep an eye on them. They're foraging now. They haven't nested again. The problem was they found the nest, but now they're just keeping an eye on them, and they've been able to get everything they needed to do. So we're past the gnat catcher, I believe.
Okay. When you see them next time, tell them to send them on down there.
I'll tell them.
With their friends and relatives.
I'll tell them.
It's a sanctuary for those kind of things.
Right.
How long do you think before Clarita Canyon gets extended through?
The city has shown no interest in even thinking about an EIR for Via Princesa, actually, Via Princesa. I asked the planners, I said, we see this coming to an end. Why don't you guys start working on this so that when a developer does come in and wants to do it, you've already got the plans or the permits and everything ready to go on this to put the road in? And they said, oh, no, we don't do that. We wait for the developers to give us the money first. So it's a typical reactive answer I got from the city instead of being proactive. Because we went through the Dockweiler fiasco about them doing the Dockweiler extension, and the statement from the city manager was, well, even with they approve it, it's going to take 4 years before the permits, the grading and everything's done before your road will be going in. So that's why I asked the planner, I said, well, why don't we get started now so that if that 4 years, we can start early. That way this major road that's supposed to go through there can get completed. And he says, no, we'll wait for the developer. Line it in. So,
right? I mean, you've got another road to build there.
they just want the developers to put it in.